But hopefully, I'm joined by the General Secretary of the RMT, Dempsey. Yes, he's there. Sorry, we were expecting to hear from some of the people who were getting to work today, but unfortunately, we haven't been able to do that. Eddie, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good afternoon.
That's very good news. Talk us through why you're taking this strike action.
It's worth mentioning that we've got strike action across all of our members in London Underground, which includes all the functions from engineering, stations, operations, drivers. We've also got industrial action this week in the Docklands Light Railway and the associated cleaning contract underneath it. There are a range of issues at stake. Where we're going in terms of offers in respect of pay increase are broadly okay or getting there. But with London Underground, we've got the added issue of dealing with shift work and fatigue, which is something we've been speaking to London Underground for a number of years about. It's a pressing issue for our members. The impact on working shifts around the clock we know is detrimental to people's long-term health, and our members have been very clear with us they want to see some progress on that question, and that's been a sticking point in London Underground so far.
And what do you say to those who've been disrupted by this action, who have struggled to get to work? Also, there are businesses in London who are saying that actually they're not going to have the money coming in that they were hoping for, that it's going to cost millions of pounds.
Yeah, look, I'm a Londoner. I speak to people all the time. People call into your shows and speak to you. People stop me in the street and speak to me. They write into us. I know how frustrating it is. It's a difficult time when the strikes are on. I see it at my children's school. I see it with our own staff here in our head office. Some of them had to do the, couple of hour walk across London to get in. We take no pleasure in that. We don't like to see London disrupted. We're very proud of the work we do in supporting London, actually. Our members love the city. They love to keep it moving. But on this occasion, our industrial relations seem to be in a pretty bad state, not just in London Underground, but right across TfL. That's a real shame. We thought we were making progress, and we were actually getting to the point we thought in the negotiations on the run up to the EVA strike action, where we'd be in a position to suspend action and put new offers to our members to consider. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But we are pleased to see finally Sadiq Khan has instructed TfL to meet us. We've saw number 10 issue a helpful statement encouraging people to get around the table. So I'm now waiting for a formal invitation, and once that's received, we'll be going straight back to talks, and we'll be seeking to find a resolution to the dispute so we can get London moving again. OK, Eddie, stay with us. I'm just going to speak to the panel about their views on all of this. And Natasha, do you support this action?
Well, look, I'm a Londoner. I use the tube nearly every single day, and of course, nobody wants to see this disruption, and nobody wants to see London impacted in this way.
So you don't think they should be doing it?
I think they need to get back to conversations with TfL, and it sounds as if that things are moving in the right direction there, and I'm relieved to hear that that's happening. My understanding is that the pay, I think we've just heard that the pay offer isn't the issue here. The issue is around time, and it's around flexibility of working.
I think, yeah, a shorter working week.
And so those conversations and those negotiations need to continue.
The TfL say that they can't afford it.
They need to continue speaking to the RMT and to their members, and I understand.
Do you think this is the way to press the case to have strike action?
I think it's obviously legitimate for people to withhold their labour if they get into a situation where they feel they need to. I think the RMT have to protect the interests of their members, but I think TfL and the RMT need to work together to ensure that Londoners are looked after.
Well, we've all been getting our steps up, those of us.
We have, but I think the thing to point out here, I would say, is look, the days lost to strike action under this mayor, under Sadiq Khan, is 70% lower than the previous mayor. So we have made, I think TfL and the Mayor of London have made massive progress in working constructively with unions, and that's where we need to be for all Londoners.
Neil, are you in support of this strike action?
Not at all, and Sadiq Khan said he wouldn't have any industrial action, and we've ended up with some significant disruption, and it's the impact it has on ordinary citizens, people trying to get to work, people trying to get to hospital appointments, people actually missing out on operations, for example, because they can't get to their hospital in time. It's deeply damaging for our economy. It's deeply damaging for people's day-to-day lives. And it will be made worse and we've got it coming in on the horizon next week, the Employment Rights Bill coming back to the Commons, with debate around thresholds for strike action. That's going to make potentially strike action more likely, which doesn't help the government's stated aim of economic growth, and it really doesn't help ordinary people day to day.
Eddie, what do you say to that? It's not helping people day to day, and actually the changes that are going to come in are going to make strike action more likely.
Well, we never have problems with the thresholds that are in place now. So our members returned a mandate for industrial action well clear of the thresholds that are in place now. If they're reduced in the Employment Rights Bill, it's not going to make much difference to us in the RMT. But I've got to tell you, that doesn't make strike action more likely. What makes strike action more likely is bad industrial relations and poor decisions made sometimes by politicians. And in this case, look, I understand and accept the disruption it caused to people's lives and businesses. And people speak to me all the time. I live in London. I go into my local businesses. I use them all. I discuss these issues with them. We don't want to be in this place. We'd much prefer to get to a negotiated settlement. We do make big news when we're on strike, the RMT. But I've got to tell you, the vast majority of cases, we settle deals. We are a trade union that goes out to make good deals for our members. We're not a trade union that goes out with the intention of getting into strike action, but sometimes we have to do that. We have to stick up for our members. We have to take their issues up, particularly the ones that they say to us are important. And so that's what we do. That's what we're expected to do. And if you look around the economy, most people's living standards are through the floor. We get a lot of flack for some of the wages that people are on in London Underground, but we think people ought to have a good standard of living.
Because the average full-time tube driver in 2024 was paid £68,000.
Yeah.
And so you say you get flack.
Right,
you get flack for that.
We've got people on wages that you don't see in other parts of the economy. But the simple fact of the matter is, wages have plummeted in Britain over the last 40 years. Most people can't afford a decent standard of life. In fact, a big chunk of our welfare bill goes on in-work benefits to support low wages.
Okay,
if you live in London, people know how hard it is to live in London. Even on £72,000, you need to be earning well in excess of about 100,000 to afford
Let me bring
an
in
average house in London.
Anita, what do you say to that?
Wages need to come up.
Well, I mean, people's wages need to come up, and the solution is not to use taxpayers' money and to put those taxpayers who are working for less than £72,000 through a lot this week through the strike action. But I also just want to pick up on this kind of more fundamental point, which is it seems like a lot of the dispute is about the work week. And, I mean, a 32-hour work week is pretty low, pretty below average. And also, we have to factor in the fact that the reality is that there's been huge, I mean, some moderate drops in the use of public transport, and also the amount of subsidies required for the public transport, and TfL in particular, has necessarily had to go up. So there isn't a lot of money out there. It's really difficult. And with the government intending to grow the economy, I really struggle to see how this is going to move us further on. And I think that I understand why the unions are fighting for what they want, but taking strike action in this way is really, really frustrating to a lot of Londoners who earn a lot less than drivers and who work a lot longer hours.
Eddie?
Yeah, so just to be clear, we've got members who are on the living wage all the way up to that rate who are out on strike over the course of this week. It's not just drivers. I'll take the point about public subsidy into transport. We've helped to deliver a £166 million surplus in London Underground. We've got ridership back up to record levels. And we were doing that with 2,000 less staff than we were before the pandemic. And that's one of the reasons why fatigue and shift work impact is something that's so important to our members now. We published a study we had independently done for us by the University of Greenwich last year that shows the type of shift work our members are doing, particularly in London Underground, can take up to 10 years off of your life. And a lot of workers in transport right across the railway industry and in other parts of the transport sector do 24/7 shifts.
Yes, okay,
they're going into ill health before they get to retirement. What we want is our people to have a standard of life that includes at least a good standard of health as they get to the end of their working life and head towards retirement. That's not unreasonable to ask.
Of course, I hear you. I mean, my mother worked nights for 10 years. Like, it's a really, really difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
The answers to these questions is innovation, and that is what TfL is actually trying to deliver. But I think what we're hearing and what I feel is there is quite a lot of resistance to that, and that is the reason why we are in this situation with London ground to a halt, effectively.
Eddie?
Well, we've not opposed any of the innovation that's currently in discussion with TfL. We're working with them on it. We're in favour of a productive, well-run transport system, and we're going to see a lot of new technology coming online over the next period. You often hear people say, well, the answer to these problems of industrial relations is to automate everything. Well, we know over the next period, automation and the digital revolution is going to have a huge impact on the economy overall. The independent public
Eddie,
policy
are you willing to embrace?
8 million jobs are at risk. So we've got to answer these questions now. We've got to start thinking about the future.
Are you willing to embrace that technology? As you say, people are talking about automation. Isn't the danger that this just makes that a quicker process?
We've got automation in transport in London now. If you look at the Docklands Light Railway, that is an automated network. So what you've got to appreciate is we have got technological advancements right across the industry, and we work with it. So we're talking about investment in new technology in railway infrastructure right across the sector. That's going to come in time. We will work towards delivering the transport network for passengers right across the country.
OK, I just want to bring Steve in briefly.
People just think we're opposed to improvements. We're not. We work in favour of improvements, but we also work on the basis our members have got to be looked after.
OK, Steve.
Yeah, it's the Underground is as close to being an essential public service as some of these others, like the police and the army and things, who don't really have the right to strike. Now, I'm not the Underground absolutely should have the right to strike, but you were saying yourself that this is an instrument you use sometimes. It seems to me the nature of the case you are trying to negotiate doesn't justify the scale of chaos you are causing this week. And I think you risk alienating people who are sympathetic to quite a few of the arguments that you've been put more widely about low pay and so on, by doing this particular blunt instrument now over a negotiation about hours.
Let Eddie answer that. Eddie?
Yeah, it's a fair point. And look, we have to make that judgment whenever we take the decision to call strike action. We don't want to disrupt the public, right? We don't like getting on Londoners' nerves. We are Londoners and we like to keep the city moving. Plenty of people do support us, by the way, but your point's well made. We've got to make that judgment on every occasion we decide to take action. But we're also a democracy. We're one of the most democratic institutions in the country. Even out of the trade union movement, we're probably on the extreme end of democracy. Our members make all of the decisions in this union. I'm not sitting here often painted as a trade union baron moving chess pieces around out there. Our members tell us what they want, and my job is to go out and deliver it. And through our democratic structures, our members have taken this decision, and they haven't taken it lightly. I do appreciate it's a risk we take when we go out in industrial action, but it's one we've arrived at democratically. But we also try to be responsible. We're ready for negotiations at any point. We've never rejected any negotiation. We never walk away from negotiations, and we certainly work as hard as we can to try and find a reasonable settlement. And we do compromise. OK,
Eddie Dempsey, thank you very much for joining us today and debating with the panel. Eddie Dempsey there, who is the General Secretary of the RMT Union.